This is Andrew for CollectionDX.com, and let's say go with Masterpiece Star Saber. So he is all together in combined jet mode, and he is a absolutely massive space jet, and it is cool looking. To give you an example of how big he is, he's well over a foot long. And if he looks similar to the core booster from Gundam, well, guess what? He was designed by Kunio Okawara, famous Gundam designer who worked on things like Leisner, the Brave series, and more anime than you can possibly watch. So he is just big, chunky, and pretty well put together in this mode. I have a couple of minor complaints, but I'll get to those. He's just, big, nice, pretty much what he looks like in the this TV series and even the original toy. This is because he was designed by an actual famous mechanical designer. So out of all the Masterpiece toys, he's the one who feels the most well-realized because he was such a well-realized character to begin with. So as far as what you can do with him in this mode, he's got a couple of flip-out missile launchers in the front here. You actually have to kind of like pull the joint out a little bit, and that is totally an Okawara thing. He's the kind of guy who would design missiles hidden behind a gun. So yeah, you just kind of have to pull it out. It's weird, the instructions don't actually show that that's there, so I knew about it beforehand, but anyway. So a thing with his landing gear, you kind of see every time I put him down, it doesn't really lock in place, although all these wheels do actually move, which is cool. The front gear doesn't lock in place, so he tends to kind of sink down a little bit, just because of how big and weighty he is. Now, if you don't want to display him with the landing gear, what you can do is take the shield that he comes with, which is, again, oddly Gundam-like. Kind of looks like the new Gundam shield, but he didn't actually work on the new Gundam, did he? Take out the middle section, and there's this little two-part clear stand adapter. So you can just take this, and it hooks in under his crotch there, and here we go. Star Saber in flight. So I'm just gonna, while I'm here, fold up his landing gear and talk a little more about the toy. Now the rear landing gear is pretty cool because you actually fold up this tiny little wheel, and then it goes and becomes part of his foot, completely hidden away. So that's a very nice bit of engineering there. And a couple of minor nitpicks besides the landing gear. His antenna from his Star Saber helmet, they feel like they're always trying to go inwards like this, even though they're supposed to be pointing straight in combined jet mode. So I'm not sure what's going on there, if I'm doing something wrong, but again, the instructions didn't really clarify what you need to do there. And also, you really need to make sure you get his thighs here, the blue parts, in the right orientation before you click his shins into this part of the backpack. Just because otherwise the clips won't really hold it right. But when you get it together, he's definitely a lot more solid. It's just a little fiddly. So as far as diecast content, it's mostly little details like these engines on the back here, little thrusters there. They're all just kind of bare diecast, which looks kind of cool. And the ones on the back here especially, they have a very tight joint, because there's sort of like a heel for him in robot mode. So you can move them up and down, but it is a little difficult to do so. You can store the Sabre laser up on top here, and also both of the Sabre blades, the big one and the little one, store in these compartments here, and you can just pull them out, much like he does in the show. Alright. So let's take a look at Sabre himself. So to separate Sabre from the V-Star, all you have to do is push on this little button in the back here, and that'll help you pull him out. And also you need to just kind of flip down these little panels on the bottom here. We've seen the transformation sequence from the TV show. It's all pretty accurate with the Masterpiece toy. All right, so to finish off him in his little jet mode, you just rearrange his fins so he looks more like an actual little space jet. I noticed that the design it's not really technically a real airplane, but it does seem like it's based on an F-18. So that's kind of cool. The little Sabre jet has its own landing gear, just one in the nose cone and then a pair in the back here that are actually part of his feet, so you kind of have to like hold the front as you're flipping these down. So yeah, little Sabre jet, again, very accurate to the design, the original design, and as such it does still kind of look like the original toy. So transforming Sabre is pretty simple. First we're going to remove his Brain of Courage, the little brain master guy who rides in the cockpit. And the cockpit is not cooperating right now. There it goes. So inside there is an absolutely tiny little brain master, the Brain of Courage, who looks like a tiny version of Star Saber without his helmet. So I'm going to put that over here for now. And you just separate the hilts of the saber blade, set it aside, close this up, flip these back, flip these around, pull his hand or his arms up, and you can first flip out his hands and then extend his elbow joints. And this will actually kind of lock in place as you're doing it. And with the legs here, there's a sliding joint that helps them deploy, so you just kind of pull, and it's actually easier if you just separate these first and then pull each one individually. And note that when you're putting these back, his legs have to be at this angle. So basically like one click back and then one click forward with the knee joint. Oddly enough, that's a very Kinyu Okawara thing there, to have the robot's thighs in that position. And just flip down his feet, set him up, and now it's time to brain set. So you flip down this little door in the front here, and the Brain of Courage has a tiny little hole on it that goes into a peg right here, and you just kind of make sure that it's in the right position. Put it up, and the face rises up, again, just like in the show. Although, the face is not actually in the little Brain of Courage right there. It's just a thing that's hiding right beneath where the helmet starts. So you just stick that up, and his face comes up. And he actually does still have a fair bit of head articulation, despite the fact that he has that gimmick. So that's a really cool piece of engineering. So to finish off Sabre, we're just going to take out the Sabre laser, flip out its own little handle, and put it in Sabre's hands. And his hands actually do have a wrist joint. They are kind of butting up against the little wrist guard there, but you know, you can actually do a lot with this guy. He actually feels like his own masterpiece. I mean, obviously Star Saber is a masterpiece, but even his smallest component is a masterpiece. So you flip this around, there's some tabs in here that are going to the slots on the side of his arm here, and just kind of line that all up until it snaps in place. And it's kind of hard to see from where I am, but the whole thing does in fact get on there. Here it goes. And so here we are, Sabre, the King of Knights, in robot mode, and he's again a fully featured little figure on his own. He's got some cool bits, like the fact that his hips here, they actually have little skirt armor, and there's actually a bit of play in the way his hips are. So he can rotate, they can move upwards because he's got this nice ratcheting joint. And of course it moves forward because that's how he transforms when he combines to Star Saber. So he's a nice, just complete transformer. I mean, he doesn't have a waist joint, but again, this because he has to still transform into the block that goes into Star Saber's chest. Fully moving shoulder joint with a ratchet that goes in and out. Bicep swivel, single jointed knee, or single jointed elbow, and the opening fingers for his hands, as we saw before. Oh, and I actually forgot to do something. His cockpit slides down for robot mode. So yeah, that's Sabre. He's pretty well scaled with regular Masterpiece cars. It's actually kind of amazing. He doesn't seem he would be that big, but no, he's right the same size. And here's Wheeljack because they actually met in Transformers Victory. So all we need is a Perceptor and a Minerva to complete that scene from the series. And as far as what you can do with little Sabre, if you pull this off, and we'll pretend that it just shrank down into its own saber hilt thingy, and you can stick this in his hand. It's kind of hard to get it in there, but it is meant to go in there. Actually, I think it's meant for the other hand, because there's actually a slot in there. So you just kind of get it in there. There we go. Put the gun aside. That usually disappears in the show anyway. And we'll pull out from the V-Star the small-sized saber blade, and it just clips in there. So yeah, here's Sabre with his tiny own-sized saber blade. You can actually give him the giant saber, or the actual full-size saber blade hilt if you want. This thing just kind of opens up and the hilt flips out. So if you want to imagine Sabre wielding the giant saber blade, and not this one that just kind of is anime magically scaled down for him, you can work it out. Pull that out from the V-Star, and the way this connects to the sword hilt is you just kind of bring this out, and there's a double hinge in here, and this is keyed to only go in one way, so there's a wide slot on one side and a narrow slot on the other. So just stick it in, line it all up, and bring this part in. So there you go. There's the full-sized saber blade. And yeah, it still does fit, but it's a kind of it's a weird fit. They kind of work it in there. And it's got you have to kind of get it like right between his thumb and palm. There it goes. So yeah, now here we go. Here's Sabre wielding the full saber blade. So it's big, and as you can see, nicely chromed blade. Alright, I think it's time to combine the two into the full Star Saber figure. Alright, so here's Sabre with the V-Star, and it's time to create the Ultimate Swordsman. So just partially transform him back into jet mode. Sorta. You're going to want to fold up his own arms again, and fold in his hands, because you need to do that. Otherwise, they won't fit against his sides. Leave the Brainmaster in there, and with his legs, you're going to retract them slightly, not all the way. So you're just going to kind of put them so that this is right here, basically the yellow part disappearing, and that will let you enough room so you can bring this forward. And yeah, it's sort of weird, like where it needs to be, so you just sort of have to feel it out. Bring up his skirt armor so he has enough room to bring his legs up like this, put his foot away, and there you go. You just kind of have to make sure that this part is clicked forward as much as it can go. And I was wrong before. You're supposed to let just the yellow part. It should be visible in this mode. So again, kind of put that up as far as you can, retract his foot, bring up the skirt armor, and get his hips up as much as you can. And then you just bring this together, kind of squeeze him tight, and you just leave his arms in as they were in jet mode. And so here we go, the little Sabre chunk, and you want to make sure that this is all lined up here for the combination, because you can actually leave it set down a little bit, but we'll put that aside for now and focus on this. Much like in the series, the V-Star forms about 80% of Star Saber, so this is where all the cool stuff happens. We're going to start off by working on the legs here. Just flip out the feet and flip up these various fins all over his body. Also, I've noticed there's a lot of like random holes and slots that seem to be there for the eventual Victory Leo to combine with him. So you're going to take this, and this whole thing just comes up and it will lock in place. You can fiddle with this button here if it doesn't lock right away. And do it again on this side. Oh, and I shouldn't forget, also remember to disengage these tabs on the back. One's a little tighter than the other, so that's why I didn't notice it before. So there you go. And that's pretty much a big part of the transformation right there. You can extend his own forearms and just come out like that and like that. And his legs here, I'm just going to flip up his skirt armor. Lewd. You rotate his thighs like this. Because one cool thing is they're actually just using the knee joint for his transformation. So I think that's kind of cool. They didn't give him like a separate joint. It's a very smart way of doing it. Alright, and you might have to click, well, you can just kind of work it past there. His hips do have some nice clicky joints, but they're a little hard to manipulate on camera. So we've pretty much got him all set to receive Sabre. Just going to wheel this up just a little bit. Alright, so what you're going to do is this little spring-loaded tab here is going to go into the bottom of Sabre. And his own arms, basically this area and this edge of the wings, is going to clip in to these little white clips here. So, and there's also some tabs here, so that's why you need to make sure your cockpit is down, that are going to come into the back here. So you want to just kind of fiddle it in there. It's not quite as quick as with the original toy, but you know, it's just a little more involved. So you just kind of push everything together and make sure you get Sabre in there as much as he will go. Also notice you're going to want the red edge of the wings needs to be underneath this part right here. And you can see there's a little gray shelf that goes over. It's going to be on top of the red wings. Alright, so just flip in these side panels here. And now we can battle up, because this little arm on the back will actually deliver Star Saber's helmet over Sabre's head, and it will actually do the full combination with the faceplate flipping down, the antenna flip up, and this thing actually has a little spring-loaded clip. You just pull on it and it'll go back in there. And you can bring this back part up. I think I didn't actually have that right in the vehicle mode videos, but you can see that's how it was supposed to go. Anyway, so this whole thing is going to snap in place up here, and then you bring up this. And here we go. We got Star Saber in robot mode. So as I said at the beginning of the video, Star Saber really benefits from being designed by an experienced mechanical designer, and really he's made to be a toy that physically works. You know, he isn't a toy adapted to a cartoon then readapted into being a toy, so he just feels pretty much perfect, other than like the little nitpicks I had before. But anyway, so he's about a foot tall. He's big, and he's sized to fight large Decepticons or Destrons. because he is pretty much combiner sized in Victory. So, not a whole lot to say about him because he's pretty much what you expect. He is Star Saber. This couldn't be any more Star Saber if it tried. Articulation-wise, he's actually really, really posable, despite being kind of a big block guy. So, what's going on here is if you flip these forward, you can actually gain access to his extra elbow joint, or shoulder joints, where this actually comes and folds inward, and this is very useful when he needs to wield his sword with both hands. Let me just kind of move my lights here. Anyway, because he's so big, he's actually kind of straining my ability to use my backdrop. But anyway, so he's got some cool like fold-out joints in his upper arms, which actually let his forearms get all the way out to the side like this. He's got a double-jointed elbow, which pretty much lets you get him about this much. This is kind of where his own design sort of stops it from going further, although his forearms rotate, so you can kind of get it closer if you position everything correctly. He's got the typical like leader masterpiece guy, moving index finger and then other moving chunks of fingers. No moving thumb, but that's okay. Also, he's got a bit of a wrist joint in here, which helps him hold his sword. Moving front skirt armor, which allows you to use his ratcheting hip joints. They kind of go in and out. Unfortunately, the side skirt isn't hinged, so it kind of gets in the way because it does feel like there should be more motion, but you can't really quite use it. But that's alright. He's got ratcheting knees, there's a knee swivel, upper leg swivel, and his feet can click up and down a little bit. And as you saw before, his heels do move. It's really tight, so it doesn't really need to move to help him balance, but still, it is there, and you can use it. So, oh, and he's also got a waist joint, and I forgot something. You flip these around, these little vents here around for combined mode. But yeah, easy enough. So anyway, and in his head is cool because you've got this helmet around Sabre's head that can still move left and right, so it's fine. And it also has a little bit of up and down motion because of how it's hinged around its own neck piece. So yeah, this is super impressive considering how many things get sort of pancaked and sandwiched together for his robot mode. And of course he's got gloriously ratcheted shoulder joints. I would leave his shoulders like unpegged like this because it's easier to get them to work with all this stuff that's on top of his shoulders there. So I'm going to have him arranged like this. So he's going to hold his saber blade with two hands. And with the saber blade, the actual internal handle is a little too small for him to hold it like that. So what you do is you put this thing away, flips up like that, and you have to grab this separate piece here that's going to lock in like that. And it's just a pretty straightforward thing. You just kind of put that in his hands there, and he holds them all right. I mean, his fingers are stiff enough. It doesn't lock in place in his hands, but no, he can totally do like a box art pose with that, or any random poses from the show where he is wielding his sword in two hands. So with one hand, with the plain old sword handle, again, it kind of flops around, and you probably want to position him first before putting the sword in there, just so it doesn't fall out. But no, you can do all kinds of Star Saber-y things. And as I showed you before with the jet mode, he can in fact store the blade up and back here. And you can take this off and put this back here. Unfortunately, it does stick out. Even the small one sticks out when you put it into the back. I'll show you that. You can put the small one in here. So they kind of stick out a little bit on the back. They don't use future technology to shorten, but no, it's still cool that you can put that stuff there. You can still wield his Sabre laser. It just sort of like fits in there pretty well. Doesn't quite tab in because Sabre has this, or Star Saber has this much larger slot here in his hands, which is made for the larger weapons, obviously. But still, it stays in there fine. And it looks like a tiny pistol in his hands, but I think it was pretty consistent in the show. So his shield, which is from the very last episode of the TV show, it's got this, again, it can go into his hand, but the way this works is that you're kind of using the, there's another slot in his fingers here, and that's supposed to be what's going to grip it. So you just sort of like arrange it the proper way and kind of work it in there. There it goes. So now he's got a shield. So this is what makes him look especially Gundam-like. But you know what? Designed by Okawara, and he's pretty much a precursor to the Brave series, which is also full of a ton of Gundam-looking robots. So it's fine. But yeah, I don't really know what else to say about Star Saber. He's pretty much what he needs to be, and if you like Star Saber, you will like this toy. He's pretty solid. My only real like nitpicks for combined mode is that this doesn't technically lock in place, but it does have those strong ratchets keeping it up there. So yeah. Other than that, he's Star Saber. That's all I need to say. He is Star Saber. So anyway, this has been Andrew from CollectionDX.com. I want to thank Angolz for giving us this toy as a sample. This would have been up sooner, but things prevented us from getting the toy when it came out, but that's okay. Anyway, this has been Andrew from CollectionDX.com. Thank you for watching, and remember, let's say go!